What's up, guys? I'm back with a quick update video. This is kind of the aftermath of my Lincoln, my 9802 Lincoln bone stock that I've been showing videos on, updates, and kind of what I've been posting more regularly on, recently. So in this video, I'll show you kind of what happened to this car. I'll go more in depth when I cut it apart, and maybe I'll do like a time lapse of me cutting it up and how I go about cutting it up and saving the cage and whatnot. And then I'll probably tell you guys like what happened to them too, and maybe show you a little bit on dads and brothers. But so we ran Wayne, Nebraska bone stock. We got us three drew heat 1. It was 2 one and done features. We got lucky and ended up all 3 pulling the same heat. I think there's 15 bone stock cars, which depending on the state, the bone stock rules are very different. We're kind of a heavier bone stock build, but some of these cars are built pretty heavy out there. This thing's kind of been a turd, being that the boxes were really rusted. This frame wasn't the cleanest. I think I got 7th out of 15. I ended up catching on fire. I had a fuel. I was pumping it. It died. I was pumping it a lot, and my carb ended up catching on fire. That's what ended up taking me out. I'm really glad I got out because my bell housing is actually touching my dash bar. I don't think my transmission broke because I was actually able to drive it back and forth. I wanted to make sure everything worked before I pulled it apart. I'm going to kind of show you guys right now this car first, and then I'll probably go back to Dad's and kind of show a little bit on that, and then maybe a little bit on Ryan's. But yeah, so this car, first things first, I built up the point because the face of this pointy was kind of bending in, and it ended up flattening the angle iron I used. I think it was about 3/16 angle iron. I wanted to kind of see if I could take tires out with it. I know safety is probably not the smartest thing to do, but the tip of this pointy was giving in, and I kind of wanted to keep it around, but it ended up flattening that point down. I'll probably end up chopping that off, and then I think after this I'm going to fill this in because, as you can see, being bent, it kinked the bottom of the bumper a little more. So I put these in there to try and help it, but I think I'm going to end up covering the vents on this pointy before I run it again. So this car ate the boxes really hard. I don't even know how to get in there. Anyways, front horns look pretty good. They're not really bending. I think the pocket went a little bit more on this side. There's a little bit of cracking right there, and so I think this pushed back a little bit more on this side. Crush box, that top plate bent a lot. It did what it wanted. It did what I wanted it to do, but it still just gave. I can't really get in there. This type of stuff, like the crush box and all that, I'll show you guys more when I pull this car apart. One thing I noticed is my side rail got destroyed right there. It is ruined, and I mean ruined. This thing is so rough. This is the bottom of the crush box where I plated it. The plate did what I wanted it to do, and the side rail just couldn't handle it. It ended up actually pushing my battery box back probably 3 inches because this bolt was underneath the dash bar, way underneath, and now it's back and behind. It ripped my battery box off the floor and shoved it back. My down bars are breaking off the frame, and then because of that, I'm assuming, from the looks of it, it actually pushed my cage back. From that, it pushed all of it backwards. I don't think it bent the door bar anymore. My distributor ended up going over the top of my dash bar, which that ended up getting me a few more hits because it was pretty close there. And I'll show you when I get to the back of the car. I got cross-tracked a few times. I knew my car wasn't the hardest going out there. I got head-on pretty early, and it started walking up, and then I was going after this It was an old iron GM of some sort. I hit him heads up, popped his radiator, and then I got cross-tracked hard. So I don't know if you guys remember, but if you go back in my other videos, my tank protector had probably at least 4 inches at the base and definitely a lot more up top. And as you can see, it's into it. Trunk is gone. I ended up doing a little more tire clearancing here before I ran and beat this in, and I'm really glad I did that because it is currently digging into my tire, and the humps gave, well, the humps themselves didn't give, but right in front of the humps blew horrible. As you can see, that's on the ground. It pulled my body bolt out, completely out, and then if you look, my side rail should be even with my phone, and it's a good four inches over. It kinked it pretty hard right there at that hole. That's where these cars are kind of known to give out. I never ended up putting down bars in the back of this car because I was lazy and kind of bit me, I guess, but this thing still moved. My 9-wire wasn't very good that I used. It was kind of rusty and it broke. It did what it needed to do, I suppose. Looking at the back here, you can see it pushed in. It pushed in all of it. I took probably 3 or 4 nasty rear end shots. I run 4-point harnesses, and I have a good 6 to 8 inches of clearance between my head and the roof, and I was hitting my head on the roof pretty hard. I've got some good battle scars on my helmet from it. So you can see it packed in pretty good. Rear door gave more. This is starting to come in after Osceola, and when this trunk gave, that door just pushed in. Not bad though. I don't think it bent the cage any more than it was. This 9-wire also broke around the base. Some of my window net ruined. This is from the telehandler loading us, and the rest of the door is from the demo. So my pedals actually broke off the floor and it shoved back into my seat plate. So my pedals are way further back. The firewall completely gave in and it pushed back hard. I ended up bending this 1/4 inch angle iron where my steering shaft mounts. And up in here, I don't know, try and get you see that. It bent that pretty good. So I ran out of slide. I think my steering box is still good. Everything worked up until it didn't. So I ended up losing my power steering cap, just threw a new one on it. Fan ended up cutting my lower radiator hose on the passenger side, nicked that, and then I lost all my water. So my front horn on this side actually gave in. As you can see from clearing people, tore my sway bar mount off. I got drilled in the tire pretty hard a few times, but neither spindle, to my knowledge, neither spindle is bent. My front tires don't look to be bent. Both my rear ones are. But as you can see, it definitely hit the bottom of my frame, and I hooked my core support on their bumper. But yeah, so front horns held up good. Box is just gone. I don't know how bad the side rail is on this side. It also kinked. Yep, it bent good. So it ruined that. But my bottom plate did exactly what I wanted it to do. All my plates held up how I wanted it to do. This car is just still a little too soft. I went out there. This is probably the hardest I've ever been hit. Like I said, I came completely out of my seat and hit my roof, and I've got a good bit of clearance there. My belts are tight, but so ended up catching on fire. That's what took me out. Motor still runs, tranny still works, it still moves, so I'm happy with that. Batteries seem to be okay. They aren't pinched or nothing, so they seem to be good. That valve cover is flattened again from hitting the firewall because it's in there. This one's bent down too, but nothing major. This car's, the parts I have money into are still good, so I'll pull everything out of this. I think next weekend we're getting this car cut up, this car pulled apart. I think this one's going to be sold. Dad's will get pulled apart and then pushed in the weeds for now. Don't know what we're doing with it yet, but getting ready for harvest, so we've got to pull all 3 grain carts out of here, get them all ready to go. But yeah, this thing, you know, did all it could do. It held up extremely well for how it was built and for the cars we were running against. It was just, I had a good time, so that's all that matters. Let's just go out there and have a good time, and I used it up. This is exactly what I wanted to do. Nobody got hurt. Well, none of us got hurt. I think a guy broke his arm in our heat, I believe, but not too certain if that happened in our heat or not. But Ryland's car took a head-on hit, and it actually broke his rotor, and that's what took him out. He took a few good rear end hits, and it ended up dumping a little bit more, but it was already doing that. We kind of expected it, but the front end of this car is very, very hard. So his car is still sitting good, but I think we're going to pull it apart. Dad's got hit in the trunk, packed in perfect. It's there. His tank protector is done a little different than mine, so it definitely is doing what it needs to do. So he's running a non-stuffed, it's a T-Bird bumper. I added a little point to it because his face is kind of gone and it held up. This corner was beat in after Arcadia when he ran it last, and it actually tore this all thread out of the frame completely, and that side ended up curling over as well. His engine got hot. I think the distributor hit the firewall and actually turned it. But it still runs. It just runs a little goofy. We're going to send this transmission off to get gone through, and same with his. Mine, I'm not running a lot of power in front of it, so I'm just going to keep that motor tranny together. His cage held up amazing. Same with Ryland's. Both their cages held up great. Both these cars are still in, I know this one's bent, but they're both still in pretty good shape. His went in the S-curves from the looks of it. Both sides S-curves went pretty good. Horns walked a little bit, but it's a metric. You can't really avoid that without a bracket. But ass end packed in good. Fronts up. Engine sounded healthy. Got really hot. But he drove this into the shop, so other than that, yeah, I don't really know. We're gonna get the shop a little more organized. We're gonna get our big old tire collection. Gonna clean some stuff up, clean that gate out back there. I think my dad sold his straight truck, so gonna get these tires all lined up one row all the way to the back of the shop to kind of get us some more room. And get these cars cut up. My brother has to cut his limited weld up. I'm keeping mine together. I'm going to do a little work to make it a little better than it was this last year, as long as the rules stay kind of similar. But yeah, I broke my U-joint off, obviously, from the firewall. It just ended up cracking that U-joint. Steering column still, I just need to fix that end and put a new U-joint on it, but it's still good. That's why I have the straps there to keep it centered. But I think that'll be it. My girlfriend recorded the video from the outside, so when that gets posted, I'll probably share it on my Facebook page. But other than that, I ended up, my camera took a dump. So I got ready to pull out in there, and I heard it shut off, and I had my buddy pull it out of the car because it wasn't even recording. Both of them, they got good footage. I'm going to try and get those edited and uploaded during the week. But yeah, so next weekend, hopefully this one will be cut up, that one will be pulled apart, and I don't know about that one, but we got other stuff in life going on too, so we'll try and get as much done. And I'm going to try and do time lapse on this one, pulling it apart, because I've been showing every process of this car from start to finish, literally when I built it for Chaos a few years back, and now cutting it up, fixing it for all these shows and everything, so I might as well show it when I cut it up. So I'm going to try my best to do it. Hopefully it works out, and I'll show you guys kind of how I go about cutting things up, and I'd like to get it pushed on the lift. The thing is, my transmission, I think it's actually hitting the floor. Yeah. Yep, my slider's hitting the floor, so that doesn't really work with our lift, but maybe I'll push it back and lift it up and get it up on the lift, because I'd like to pull the rear end out on the lift to get in there and kind of to pull the cross arms out on this rear end, the 9802 style rear suspension. I need to get up in there, also pull my slider off and whatnot. But once it's up in the air, if I get it up in the air, I'd really like to show you guys kind of how it bent, because I've always liked, ever since I was a little kid, I've always liked seeing the aftermath of cars and kind of where they bend. Every car bends different, but I mean, so many people have run these style of cars that they kind of bend the same. But so that'll be it for today's video. So please like, subscribe, and comment down below what you want to see more of. Thanks.